My wife Lisa laughed at the birthday cake I bought her in front of her whole family. She didn't know what that cake meant to me. She didn't know what I'd found out the night before either. By the time that party ended, everything she believed about herself and about us was already falling apart. Hey, viewers, like, subscribe, and stay until the end because this one has a twist you will not see coming. My name is Desmond, and before I tell you what my wife did on her birthday, I need you to understand something. This story isn't really about a cake. It's about the moment you realize the person sleeping next to you every night might be a stranger. Stay till the end. What happens to her will surprise you. And hey, if stories like this hit you the way they hit me, hit that like button, subscribe, because trust me, this one's worth staying for. I'm Desmond, 34 years old, married to a woman named Lisa for 6 years now. And look, I'm not gonna sit here and pretend our marriage was perfect. No marriage is. But I loved her. I really did. This year had been hard on us, money-wise. Car broke down in March, rent went up in May. I picked up extra shifts at work, didn't even tell her because I didn't want her to worry. That's just who I was in this marriage, the quiet fixer, the guy who handled things without making noise about it. But there was this one memory I held on to, our very first date, years ago. We ended up at this tiny little bakery downtown. Nothing fancy, just a place run by an old man named Mr. Castellan. Lisa took one bite of his cake that night and said, "Desmond, this is the best cake I have ever had in my entire life." I never forgot that, not once, not in 6 years. So when her birthday came around this time and money was tight and I couldn't afford anything flashy, I didn't go to some big bakery downtown. I drove 40 minutes out past the highway back to that same little shop. I asked Mr. Castellan if he remembered us. He did. He smiled, said he'd make it just like before. I didn't tell Lisa where it came from. I wanted it to be a surprise, something that meant something, not because it looked expensive, because it meant something. I remember sitting in the car outside her family's house that night, that cake box on my lap, feeling actually proud of myself for once, like I'd done something right. I had no idea that walking through that door was the beginning of the worst night of my life. The party was already going by the time I walked in.
Lisa's mom, Greta, was there. Her sister, Priya, a few friends, including Naomi, who Lisa had known since college. Music playing low, everyone laughing. For a second, I just stood in the doorway watching Lisa smile at her own birthday, and I thought, okay, this is good. This is right. I walked up behind her, set the box down on the table, and said, "Happy birthday, baby." A little shy about it, if I'm honest. I wanted her to open it in front of everyone. I wanted that moment. She lifted the lid and paused. Then she laughed. Not a warm laugh, not a "you're so sweet" laugh. A laugh with an edge to it. "This is it?" she said, loud enough for the whole room to hear. "Desmond, this looks like it's from a gas station." Oh, I felt my face go hot. Greta chuckled along with her, actually chuckled like it was the funniest thing she'd heard all week. Priya looked down at her plate, wouldn't even look at me. And Lisa just kept going. "Felix would never show up with something like this," she said, shaking her head, still smiling like it was a joke. Felix, her coworker. I'd heard the name before, never thought much of it, until that exact second. The room went quiet for a beat too long. That kind of quiet where everyone heard it and everyone's pretending they didn't. I forced a smile, said something like, it's fine," and walked into the kitchen alone, leaving the cake sitting there, untouched, lid still half open, like even the cake knew it wasn't wanted. I stood at that counter for a long time, longer than I should have, just staring at the wall, replaying her voice. "This looks like it's from a gas station." She had no idea that cake came from the bakery on our first date. No idea I drove 40 minutes for it. No idea what it meant to me.
And in that moment, standing alone in her mother's kitchen, I made a decision. I wasn't going to tell her. Not tonight. Because if she didn't already know what that cake meant, then maybe, after 6 years, I didn't know her as well as I thought I did either. That night, after the party ended, we drove home in silence. Lisa fell asleep fast. I didn't. I lay there staring at the ceiling, that word still sitting in my chest. Gas station. Like 6 years didn't mean anything. Around midnight, her phone lit up on the nightstand, just a glow, a little buzz. I wasn't trying to snoop, I want to be clear about that. I just happened to see the name on the screen before it went dark again. Felix. I didn't touch the phone. Didn't open anything. I just lay there with my eyes open, staring at nothing, feeling something cold settle into my stomach that had nothing to do with the cake anymore. A few days passed. I told myself I was overthinking it, told myself a name on a screen doesn't mean anything. Then Naomi called me. She was quiet at first, careful with her words, the way people are when they're about to say something they don't want to say. "Desmond, I didn't want to be the one to tell you this," she said, "but I couldn't keep watching you not know." "Okay, tell me." She said she'd seen Lisa and Felix together more than once, lunches that ran long, texts Lisa would hide her screen for. Nothing she could prove, she said, but enough that it sat wrong with her for weeks. I sat there on my back porch, phone pressed to my ear, and I didn't say much, I just listened, because somewhere in the back of my mind, it was already starting to make sense. The cake comment. Felix would never show up with something like this. She hadn't just been embarrassed by a cake that night, she'd been comparing me, out loud, in front of her whole family, without even hiding it well. I didn't yell, didn't throw anything. I just sat there in the quiet, piecing it together like a puzzle I didn't want finished. 6 years, a bakery, a first date she once called the best memory of her life, and somehow I was the one who ended up feeling small. I remember thinking, she humiliated me over a cake she didn't understand. But what she didn't know yet was that I was about to understand everything. I waited 2 more days before I said anything. I needed to be calm, not because I wasn't angry, but because I wanted to actually hear what she'd say, instead of just reacting. So one evening after dinner, I asked her straight out, "Lisa, what's going on with you and Felix?" Her face changed instantly, that fast flicker people get when they're caught off guard. "What? Where's this coming from?" she said, already defensive, too defensive. "Is this still about the cake thing? You're seriously still upset about that?" That's when I knew, because I hadn't even brought up the cake. She did. I told her, calmly, that I wasn't trying to fight. I just wanted the truth. And instead of giving it to me, she turned it around on me. Said I never gave her a real life. Said I was insecure. Said the cake was just proof of how little effort I put in these days. Felix actually shows up. He actually tries. Something in me just broke quietly. Not loud, just final. So, I told her. I told her where that cake came from. The little bakery. Our first date. The night she said it was the best cake she'd ever had in her life. I watched her face change as I said it. Watched the anger drain into something else. Something closer to shame. For a second, she didn't say anything at all. Then, she slapped me. Hard. Fast. The kind of slap that comes from someone who isn't really angry at you. They're angry at themselves, and you're just standing close enough to catch it. I didn't move, didn't raise my voice, didn't slap back. I just stood there, my cheek burning, looking at her like I was seeing her for the first time in 6 years. "Okay," I said. Just that. Quiet, almost peaceful in a strange way. What neither of us noticed was Greta standing in the hallway behind us. She'd come back to grab her purse and walked right into the end of it, the bakery, the slap, all of it. Her face went pale. I saw something shift in her eyes, too. Not anger at me, horror at her own daughter. That was the moment everything started to change. Not because I said anything else. I didn't have to. I didn't say anything else that night. I just walked upstairs, got a bag, and started packing. Lisa stood in the doorway watching me, arms crossed, like she still expected me to be the one who apologizes first. That's what always used to happen. Not this time. I remember my hands were shaking a little as I folded my shirts. Not from anger anymore, just exhaustion. The kind that sits in your bones after you finally stop pretending something is fine. I called Tobias from the car, my best friend, known him since high school. He didn't ask a lot of questions, just said, "Come over, door's open." That's the kind of friend he is. I sat on his couch that night with a glass of water I didn't drink, staring at the wall. He sat across from me and said, "You don't have to decide anything tonight." And I remember looking at him and saying, "I think I already did." The next few weeks moved slow and fast at the same time. I filed for divorce. Quiet, no drama, just paperwork and silence. I moved my things out in 2 trips. Lisa tried calling a few times that first week. I let most of them go to voicemail. I wasn't punishing her. I just genuinely didn't know what I'd say yet. Tobias helped me turn that second job I'd been quietly working into something real, a small logistics consulting thing. Just the 2 of us at first, working out of his garage some nights. It wasn't much, but it was mine. Something nobody could laugh at and take credit for. Then Greta called me. I almost didn't answer, but I did, and her voice was different than I had ever heard it. Small, careful. "Desmond, I'm ashamed of how my daughter behaved that night," she said. "I should never have laughed at that cake. I didn't know." She told me something else, too. Said people had started asking Felix questions at his office once word got around about what happened. And Felix, he'd pulled away from Lisa almost overnight, didn't want the attention, didn't want the mess. I just listened. Didn't feel satisfaction exactly, just quiet confirmation of something I already suspected. He was never really there for her, not the way he pretended to be. Word got around fast after that. Small towns, and honestly, even small social circles work the same way. Within a couple months, most of Lisa's friend group knew what happened, the affair, the slap, all of it. Naomi told me later that people just started pulling back from her. Not dramatically, just quietly, the way people do when they don't know what to say, so they say nothing at all. Felix avoided her completely after that, stopped responding to texts, kept his distance at work. Whatever they had, it wasn't built to survive being seen. Greta told me she and Lisa barely spoke for a while. First time in Lisa's life her own mother had ever gone cold on her. I want to tell you I felt something big when I heard all that, some kind of victory. But honestly, I mostly just felt sad. Sad for the 6 years. Sad for the version of us that used to be good before whatever this was took over. Months later, Lisa showed up at my new apartment, unannounced. Said she'd been doing a lot of thinking. Said she finally understood what that cake meant, way too late to matter. Asked if there was any chance, any version of us left to save. I looked at her for a long moment before I answered. "I'm not angry anymore, Lisa," I told her. "I just don't think you ever really saw me, and I finally do." That was it. No yelling, no slamming doors, Just the truth sitting quietly between us, the way it should have been from the start. A year later, on my birthday, I drove back out to that same little bakery. Mr. Castellan remembered me, made me the same cake. I sat in my car afterward, ate a slice alone, and smiled, really smiled, without performing it for anyone. Funny thing about being mocked for something that mattered, it taught me exactly who was worth sharing it with. Lisa never got that. I finally did.
If this story meant something to you, hit that like button, subscribe for more stories like this one, and tell me in the comments what would you have done in my place. I read every single one. Take care of yourself out there.